Hi, today I'll be going over the topic of inflation. So, for starters, you can think of inflation as a general increase in prices, which leads to a decline in your purchasing power and rise in cost of living. Take groceries, for example. Say around this time last year, your weekly grocery bill for whatever goods you bought cost $100, but now those same goods cost $105, meaning you have to pay more to maintain the same lifestyle, so your cost of living has risen. In order to measure inflation, we use something called the Consumer Price Index. The way it works is that you determine a basket of goods, find the total price of the current year and then a past year, then divide the price of the current year by the price of the past year and multiply by 100. Now, in technical terms, inflation is the percentage change in price index year to year. We can calculate this by taking the CPI of the current year, subtracting the CPI of the past year, then dividing that difference by the CPI of the past year and multiplying it by 100 to express it as a percentage. Despite its usage, the Consumer Price Index has some flaws. One, the commodity substitution bias. When a price index assumes a fixed basket of goods, it ignores consumer behavior of substituting goods for cheaper ones. This often overstates the increase in cost of living. For example, consumers buying more apples instead because oranges have gotten too expensive. Second, the introduction of new goods. When new goods are introduced into the market, consumers are given more choice, and thus the value of their dollar increases. However, CPI is based on a fixed basket, so it fails to show this increase in the dollar's value, and thus decrease in cost of living in the current period. For example, the introduction of streaming services like Netflix allowed consumers access to hundreds of shows and movies for a monthly fee rather than needing to individually buy or rent the media. And finally, it can't measure changes in quality. When the quality of a good decreases and the price stays fixed, the value of your dollar decreases, but when the quality of a good increases, the value of your dollar increases. However, the CPI cannot accurately measure this change. For example, each year consumer tech like smartphones see improvements without a higher price tag. Now we'll get into the leading causes for inflation in Canada according to an October 2025 article by Global News. The causes include rising food prices, in part due to low domestic supply, increased rent prices, as well as Chinese and American tariffs, which affect some businesses, causing them to increase prices, which impact consumers.